what I didn't realize I was doing was storytelling. As I got older, I was like, I need a better way to tell these stories. I need a better way. And eventually he went and called the network and was like, yo, Greg Calley's gonna direct an episode of this. You know, there's no black directors on this. After that, I'm like thanking him, and he's like, yo, why are you thanking me? You shouldn't be thanking me for an opportunity you should already have.
That's deep.
There's one scene where there's a bunch of scammers and they have their guns. They take their guns out, they put them on the table. Like, we walked into some of the most dangerous situations. We were in the middle of a shootout in one of the episodes. Everywhere we went, we were good because we were with Mike. We didn't have no security with us. But when people saw Mike, it was like, yo, cool it. I never spoke about this publicly, but I'm gonna talk about it. And whatever happens, happens. I called Marvin and I said, yo, this is what's happening. When people ask me, yo, you're on Vice, ESPN, HBO, all of these things, your show's on Peacock, you got an agent? Nah. This is all just me having relationships and showing up and doing what I do.
Hey, before we dive into this amazing interview, I have to take a moment to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, On the Set Apparel. They are all about quality gear for creators like us, with clothing designed to keep you comfortable and inspired on set, ensuring that you feel and look your best as you pursue your passion. So use code OTSP20 for 20% off your next order. Let's get back to this amazing interview, and don't forget to use that code and tag us for a shout out. Peace. Welcome creatives to the Ironbound Film and Television Studio here in the great city of Newark, New Jersey, home of the exclusive On the Set podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of the captivating world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Steven Strickland, and today we want you to join us in the spotlight as we take you on a cinematic odyssey unlike any other. We will pull back the curtain of the creative process and unveil the art of storytelling in all its glory. And we may even uncover some secrets and stories that make movies magic. Our guest today has been published professionally as a journalist since the age of 16. He's a senior video producer for the Players Tribune, which is Derek Jeter's sports media company. He's a video production assistant on the Emmy award-winning HBO documentary, Raised in the System. He's the DP, that's director of photography, for the Tribeca Film Festival Spotlight documentary, Charlie's Records. He's the CEO of Red House Visuals, and he is the event curator at Sippin, Spades. Now, I've been to this event, and this networking event is unmatched. So I want you to welcome our multi-talented director, producer, screenwriter of a guest, Greg Calley. What's up, my guy?
That's an introduction.
Doing all right? Yeah, man. You doing all right? Doing all right?
I'm doing good, man.
Good,
Chilling.
good, man. It's good to see you.
Glad to be here with y'all.
I'm glad to have you. So, we're getting ready to start. All right. Cool. Greg Calley. Man, when I first met you, when I first heard your name, I thought it was like a stage name. I thought it was like Greg Calley, like you representing Cali. That's on the birth certificate?
So, it's a funny story. Technically, it is a stage name.
Okay.
And a lot of people automatically think like, oh, he's from Cali. You know, it's Greg Calley, Cally. But the story behind it is actually a little bit funny. Is when I was in high school, so you know how everybody had nicknames like T-Mac, Tracy McGrady. People had different variations of like their last name as nicknames. So my friends just started calling me Cali, right? Because my last name is a longer variation of that.
Which you're not going to disclose.
I don't really want to get into it.
Good.
You know, I don't want people, you know, the hackers is out here.
Gotcha.
But then I started rapping in high school, and then that was my rap name, Cali. So everybody knew me as Cali throughout high school. And then once I stopped, like, it just stuck. Everyone kept calling me Cali. And then, like, it's funny enough, like, some people I didn't even tell call me Cali just started calling me Cali throughout my life. So when I got into film, my last name is connected to my father. I got it from my father, but I don't have a relationship with him. Haven't seen him since I was probably like 5 or 6. And it was one of those things where my mom was just too lazy to do a name change. So
Wow.
I just grew up with that last name. Now I wanted to be intentional about when I started film, similar to like Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. It's like taking ownership of your name. There's power in that. So I started going by Greg Cali. So technically it is a stage name. It's very close to my real name, but technically it's a stage name.
Look at that. All right.
Yes.
So do you still rap?
I haven't written a rap in like 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so 10 years ago, I could have said, hey,
give me some bars.
Spit something for us.
Yeah.
Right
No.
I almost
no,
said kick it. I was about to show
kick
my
it.
age.
Can you kick it?
Kick it. This is
No.
Arsenio Hall. Shout out to Arsenio
But the
Hall.
funny thing is, like, did you ever rap at any point in your life?
Yeah, Christmas time I rapped a hell of a lot of gifts. But yes, I did. I play around, I freestyle from time to time.
If you rap or freestyle or whatever, you know how it is. Like, sometimes you'll just be in the shower making up rhymes and stuff, or like you'll think, like, I would have said this. So technically, like in your head, it's just, I think rap was the first vessel of creativity that I like indulged in. Well, it was really poetry.
Mm-hmm.
But then poetry was lame in high school, so then
Wow.
I had to learn how to put poetry on a beat, which became rap.
That's
and
all
then
it is.
it just evolved from there until eventually filmmaking.
Okay. All right, cool. So we met at a premiere for a film that you wrote and directed. We're going to talk about that film later. And it got to the point where somebody said, any questions? And I asked a question that I ask a lot of people, and you shut me down.
Did I really?
You said it was the worst question you could ask anybody, any
Did I
artist.
say-
Yeah.
I
And-
said that for real?
Yeah. And it was,
No,
it was cool.
seriously.
Dead ass. Can I say
Okay.
that? I don't know. But no, but it was cool though, because you gave a reason for it, and the question is,
Oh, I know
so
what
what's
you asked me.
next?
I know what you asked me
Yep.
now, I guess.
So I was sitting on the side. He was like, anybody got any questions? I was like, so what's next for you? He's like, man, do you know that is the worst question you could ask a creative? Because, what if they don't have anything next? And I felt like, well, if you ask that question, they can say, if they were okay with it, hey, man, I'm just auditioning, waiting for the next thing or just creating and stuff like that. So I'm going to ask you that later, just so you know.
So,
the question is going to come up.
But I'm gonna expound on that because I
Okay.
don't want it to get taken out of context.
Right.
The reason that I feel like for creatives, what's next is such a dangerous question is because when you're a freelancer or a creative or work for hire, it gives you anxiety about what is next. You know what I mean? Because as a director or as a screenwriter, you're always working on stuff, but it's not like an accountant who it's like, all right, I closed this file, let me move to the next one. Sometimes you have to take that moment to breathe and figure out, or even you as an actor, sometimes you got to figure out, like, what do I want to do in my next role? I just played the cop 4 times. I don't want to play a cop again. Like, what do I want to do next? How do I want to expand what I'm doing? And sometimes I think in excitement, consumers of content, and I do this too, we're so hungry for the next thing. Like, there's a show on Netflix called The Upshaws, Wanda Sykes. So I met Wanda Sykes at a basketball game, and I asked her, I'm like, yo, what's up? Like, y'all keep dropping 5 episodes, 6 episodes. And, as a creative, you're like, damn, like, it took us 6 months to shoot them 6 episodes, and you already like, all right,
Right.
what's next? Like, that was a snack. Like, what's the next thing? So that's why I think it's super dangerous, because as artists who are like working hard to like try to like put impactful work out there, we're in such a time now that like Bad Boys just came out, and tomorrow people can be asking about Bad Boy 5.
That's true.
And Will and Martin are like, yo, we just
Right.
but part of my language, but they're gonna be like, yo, we just toured 8 countries. We just did, like, it took us 2 years to shoot it. We had a whole strike, this, that, the third, and people always want the next thing. So I'm sorry if I gave you any PTSD from the shutdown.
It's okay.
I want to take this moment to formally apologize.
In that camera right there. No, you don't
I'm
got
going
to
to
do that.
formally apologize to Strick for.
I'm just playing, man. I totally understood, why you said it. But let's get into it, man. So how did it get started for you? I know you mentioned the rap and to the poetry and to the rap and then ultimately filmmaking. Did it start for you, when you were 16, being professionally published as a journalist? Was it when you interviewed LL Cool J?
This boy did research.
Yeah, we do research here. I mean, I know you've gone on to, interview people like Angela Yee and Kendrick Lamar, but like, when did it start for you? Was it at age 16, or was it when you worked at Madison Square Garden? Yeah, we do our research, bro.
Man, this dude is diving deep.
Mm-hmm.
For me, as long as I can remember, I've always been a creative person. I've always been like trying to create things. My cousin used to draw sneakers, like design sketches of sneakers. We must have been like less than 10 years old. He used to draw the little silhouette of sneakers and like make his own designs. And then I started doing that, but I couldn't draw for nothing. But I enjoyed the process of like making the choices of like, oh, this one's going to have a strap, or this one's going to have this or that. But I just didn't have the training for it per se. Then magazines, I have a couple of cousins. My grandmother had 11 kids, and I for a long time was one of the youngest cousins, because my mom is the youngest of those 11, and then I was her youngest son for a long time. My younger brother came like 8 years later and kind of snatched that title from me, but I was the youngest of like all the cousins at a point. So I have a cousin that is probably like 15 years older than me, and they had an apartment. Their parents moved to Florida, and they had an apartment, and they were both very into hip hop, into all of the stuff, into the arts, and they used to have every magazine on their coffee table. So when we used to go to their house, guys were watching sports, doing this, doing that, and I was just laying under the coffee table reading the magazines. Like, something about reading stories just like spoke to me, and I was just like reading people like Scoop Jackson, like hearing how they used terminology from hip hop to describe sports was like, oh, that's cool. Like, it was outside of the lines. It was breaking the rules in a sense, the vernacular that they were using and such. So that always spoke to me. Like, I always was like wanting to do something creative, but I think at the time that I was coming up, not really having the guidance, like, I didn't realize how much my mind and my body was craving it. So the first thing was rap. And me and my friends, well, like I said, I was writing poems, writing poetry, and then there wasn't really an avenue to share that, especially in high school. You're not going to call your friends like, yo, check this poem out I wrote, bro. Like, that's just not, that's not the thing. What was the thing was raps. So everybody in the lunchrooms freestyling, this, that, the third. And then obviously I'm a fan of hip hop. Like, I'm a fan of Nas and Jay-Z and these people. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I want to do that to like get these ideas out of my head. As I began to mature, and ironically enough, the context of why I stopped rapping and moved on was actually a very bad assumption that I made, where I was like, nobody wants to hear regular people rap. Like, you got to get shot, you got to do this, you got to, because like Jay-Z sold drugs, 50 Cent got shot 9 times, and I'm just a regular like kid that grew up in America, a black kid. So
reading
I'm like,
magazines under the table.
Like, ain't nobody want to hear about that. So I stopped, and then like a few years later, then the J. Cole's and the Big Sean started to come along, and you're like, oh, these dudes are super regular. Like, they don't have felonies and stuff to their names. They weren't doing all these copious things. But yeah, in high school, I started writing for the school newspaper. I had a teacher that like was like, yo, you're really good. Like, you should come be an editor. We're going to revamp this whole newspaper, and gave me a shot. And it was like everything I needed. I got to now write like those magazines, and I started winning awards, and people started knowing me. And like, it was literally like, all those movies that like you hear the like character like reading their piece, like
right.
And all of that stuff, like Moesha, like, hey, Dear Diary, like that's how I was writing in the school newspaper. Like, I had an editorial spread, and I was just putting all my business in there and like making it like into like my like monthly corner type of thing. And what I didn't realize I was doing was storytelling. And as I got older, I was like, I need a better way to tell these stories. I need a better way. And eventually I landed into photography, videography, and the natural evolution is filmmaking. So if you were to like look at it in like a sense of like Pokemon, it was like, this is the Charizard version of me as a creative, right? Where I was writing little articles and freelancing for hip hop magazines early on. That was like, you know, the earliest form of me. And this is like me towards I might not even be in my final stage, but yeah.
Nah, man, you still got more work to do.
Got more work
You
to
still
do.
got more work to do. How did you come across the opportunities to, interview LL, Angela Yee, Kendrick Lamar?
So the first company I ever started was an online magazine. It was called Page 31.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched The Social Network. This is when Mark Zuckerberg like took over the world with Facebook. And I was like, oh yeah, make your own website. You're going to be a billionaire. Like, that's what you got to do. But on the serious side of that, I was writing for a lot of hip hop magazines. They would give you a check for $40. It would take 6 months for that $40 to get to you.
Okay,
and then you would write like 300 words. And then when you open the magazine, they put 30 words in there. And then right under it was like an advertisement for like Smack DVD or some crap like that. So it was just like, oh shoot, like it was nothing but ads. They cut my whole thing up. So I was like, nah, like I'm pretty much doing it for free anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Let me create my own online publication. Let me create a website, and let me just, the interviews that I would have been doing for these magazines and stuff, let me do them for myself. And then let's go be billionaires. Like, let's go get rich. That's what me and my friends were saying. Like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to be like The Social Network. So we started the publication, and at the time I was working for the Knicks. I was working for the Knicks as a locker room attendant, so I had access. Like, I was on the court every night, so I would just be around. I had my industry contacts, people that I knew from just doing a lot of freelance journalism, and then I had people that I was meeting at the Garden that I was able to network with, and then I was a dog. Like, I was going to every concert, every event in New York City. I wasn't even on the list. I would show up with my camera, and I would convince the bouncer, like, I'm supposed to be inside. And I would get inside, and when I got inside, I would look around and see who looked busy, who looked like they were working, and I'd be like, yo, you work for the label? And I would start talking to them, networking, let them know my skill set. Yo, look what I could do. Look how I write, this, that, and making those relationships. So networking was like a big part of it. I used to be, anybody who came up in like that blog era, that New York City blog era, if they don't know my name, they know my face, because I was at all the shows. I was shooting the footage. I was waiting around for the artists, trying to talk to their managers, and it was just little connections, like the Kendrick Lamar thing. There's a guy who used to work at Interscope, an older black dude. His name was General, and he had Black Hippie, which is Ab-Soul, Schoolboy Q, J-Rock, and none of the hip-hop press wanted to mess with them in New York because they're these West Coast guys that people weren't that familiar with. You know what I mean? So he was like, yo, I need you to interview my guys. Like, can you come to this sneaker store and interview them? Went to the sneaker store. Looking back now, it was probably, production-wise, it was garbage because everybody was talking. There was music playing. We didn't have no lav mics. We just shot it on the camera mic. But we interviewed them and we put it online, and their fans flocked to it. So it probably did like 10, 20,000 views. And the dude was like, yo, I got you. Day that Kendrick Lamar's debut album, Good Kid, Mad City's coming out, he's like, yo, come to Best Buy. You're going to interview him.
Nice.
It was a lot of magic moments like that. Me really just putting myself out there and letting people see my passion for storytelling and creativity and doing good work. Because people were looking and they were like, yo, you should be doing interviews for, XYZ.
Right.
But I was too hard-headed to go work for somebody else. So I was like, I'm going to do it for myself. I don't want to work. I didn't want to, like, be in the system and have to, like, do that $40 an article grind and, like, work my way up. Like, I felt like skill-wise, the people that were trying to make me pay my dues, I felt like I was more talented than them in a lot of regards. So I wanted to make my own way.
All right, I like that. All right, let's take a step back. When did you first realize your love for filmmaking? I know the part about storytelling, reading the magazines but when it was like, okay, I need to make movies and make these stories visually. When did that happen?
Unconsciously, I had been starting the process of becoming a filmmaker in high school, but I didn't realize it. We had like school projects where you had to make your own brand, and I was like, we're gonna shoot a commercial. And me and my friends got together and we scripted a commercial out and we shot it. And like, I remember being the man in high school because they had to roll the TV in. Remember when they had these roll the TV in the classroom? Everybody like, yo, they rolling the TV in. Like they had to roll the TV in for my presentation because we shot a whole commercial. And ironically enough, to go back to the Cali thing, my product was called Cali Juice.
Cali Juice.
No Diddy. But it was called Cali Juice. And
we're gonna cut the commercial.
But yes, that was what the product was called. We shot a commercial for it. And then also like in one of my English classes, I wrote a play which was based on Paid in Full. And it was called Learned in School. And we were hustling hall passes. Nice. It was literally like a parody of Paid in Full, which was my favorite movie. So it was like I was doing that stuff, but not realizing that that was coming from a passion of filmmaking. And I think like I went on tour. I'm doing all the media stuff, and I ended up forming a relationship with the R&B singer Tinashe, and we got cool, a friendship, I should say. And we got cool, and she needed someone to come shoot photos and videos for her on tour. So I ended up going on tour with her. And on that tour, it was like a boot camp for me as like a videographer, because I didn't go to film school. So I'm learning how to use, I had like a Canon 6D. I had like all this different equipment that I was learning how to use on the road. I had to buy these manual Rokinon lenses because I couldn't afford the autofocus lenses. So now I have to learn how to pull focus and do all of these things. And in that process of like picking other people's brains that are around me, I started realizing how much I had a passion for visually curating art. And then my literature background, because my degree is in English, it was just a perfect fusion. So that's when I was like, I went to Tribeca Film Festival after we got off tour. I spent like a week sitting in Tribeca Film Festival watching all these films, and I was like, yo, I want to do this. Like, I want to be a filmmaker. I was looking at my interviews, and I was like, yo, I'm editing them like they're documentaries anyway. And I just inadvertently was doing that. I didn't even know technically that that's what I was doing.
Okay. Man, that's very interesting, man. Ooh, sorry. Apologizing to the mic like it's a real person. I'm sorry. I was actually apologizing to the sound man. Nah, how about that? What I didn't mention in your accolades is that you've hosted events for NFL, for Jack Daniels, who else? Shinzu whiskey. Tell us how those things came about.
Yeah, man, it's so I have an event that I curate called Sippin Spades.
Wonderful event.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Strick's
I think that's
there.
the second time I saw you. Third time I saw you.
Yeah.
Your first time was, you shot me down at the premiere of the movie. Second time was at on site when you were on the panel.
Yeah,
I got to work with you. That was great. And the third time I came to your event, Sippin Spades. So yes, talk about that.
Strick showed love, man. I appreciate that too, by the way. So yeah, and again, like going back to high school, I used to play spades all the time in the lunchroom with my friends. Used to cut class to go play spades.
Ooh.
Yeah. Then in college, I get there and people are like, yo, you know how to play spades? I'm like, yo, I got another thing coming. So like literally like this was like my favorite pastime. And after college, there really wasn't a place to like really play spades and kind of have that kind of moment. But then also me being like a young creative, I also felt like I was in the clubs a lot because there was like album release parties and stuff like that, or people were doing them in studios. There was a time when they used to do like the album listening in the studio. Terrible idea, because recording studios is supposed to have like 8 people in it, not 75. Right. So we used to just be always in settings where you couldn't really network. You couldn't really talk to someone and ask them, yo, what do you do? Where are you from? All of the things that you would need to speak about to have a connection. So me and my cousin and a friend of mine, we were like, yo, let's do this event where similar to golf, how like in other communities, golf is like where people go to close business deals. It's a leisurely spot. Let's do that with Spades, because this is kind of like something in our culture that we have. And let's create like this adult game night where people can come together, a lot of professionals, actors, lawyers, doctors, and they can connect and like have fun, but also find synergy on like how to get stuff done. So we have people, you mentioned On Site, Kuala, who runs On Site, she came to one of my events and got booked for a feature film.
Nice.
Playing Spades.
That's dope.
Like we have different connections that have formed that way, and it's gone really far where now, you know, and the cool thing I did to like really get Sippin Spades out there was, again, use my storytelling. I would shoot recaps and like do it in a storytelling kind of way that made people want to be at the next one. So before the pandemic, at our peak, we were doing events 300-400 people, and then all of these brands like Ciroc, Jack Daniels, and Shinju Whiskey started wanting to be involved in it and started empowering us. And last year, our 6-year anniversary, we were at Afropunk, the music festival, which is
so mad
thousands of people interacting with our game night, which we started in Brooklyn, New York. And it was like 60 people at the first one. So,
and that's dope, man. Come on, that up. And you guys have your own cards.
Yeah. So now we created our own deck of playing cards with a bunch of black icons illustrated on it, and it's been doing pretty well. And we have an event with Samsung soon, which myself and the illustrator and my business partner and my cousin Reg. And the illustrator, his name is Graph Addict. We are going to sit down at Samsung and have a panel to kind of talk about, you know, curating culture through illustration and branding and all of that good stuff.
All right, cool. With such an impressive clientele at, you know, Red House Visual, you know, is there any behind the scenes story that was just like amazing and that shapes or had an influence on what you do?
That's a great question.
You know, something that left a lasting impression.
I think a couple moments, actually. One of them, so page 31, which I mentioned, so I was doing this online publication. We were interviewing all these celebrities. I was shooting footage of like Jay-Z, J. Cole. My stuff was going on TMZ. My stuff was, we shot like a photo of Poe Johnson, who is Lala Anthony's best friend and was on her reality TV show. We did a photo shoot spread with her, and VH1 stole it and made a billboard out of it. Like all over New York City. It was in the subways. It was in the bus stops. We weren't getting paid for it. So I went to the Small Business Administration one day. My uncle tells me like, yo, you should go to the SBA. They have free counseling. They have all these resources. So for anyone who doesn't know, Small Business Administration is your best friend as someone who's trying to start your business. You go to the SBA, it's a bunch of retired rich people, like in every industry. Mm-hmm. So like my mentor was a retired commercial agency owner. So he shot commercials for Pepsi, American Express, all the big brands. And he's now doing free work at SBA. So anyone could walk in there and get this $1 million advice from him for free. So my uncle told me to go. And before I found my mentor, I spoke to another gentleman, very frank dude, who was just like, yo, I'm telling him all the cool stuff. Like, yeah, I just interviewed LL Cool J. I just did this. I just did that. And he's like, cool. How much money did you make? I'm like, money? What do you mean money? I got views. What are you talking about?
That's currency.
Yeah, like I got, I just saw a funny skit the other day when they were like, people trying to pay you an exposure.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go to the Apple store, you try to buy something, you're like, yo, this exposure right here. You don't know how much that's worth?
Right.
I'm giving you exposure.
You passed that.
So, yeah, I had all the exposure, but I wasn't making no money. So the conversation that like changed my whole mind state was, he was like, yo, you're in the red. And if you're in the red and you're operating, this is a hobby. It's not a business. And I was like, this shit is a hobby. I've been running around 5-6 days a week doing this. And he's like, yeah, it's a hobby. Like, you're having fun doing it, cool, but you're not making no money. And that was the genesis of me deciding I want to make a production company and I want to offer the service instead of just interviewing people and then like not really being able to monetize it. Now, at that time, I didn't really understand how to monetize content, which now I think a lot of people are up on, but I didn't really have an idea. I just looked at it like, we're going to get a bunch of views, which we did. We had videos that had hundreds of thousands of views, but we didn't understand like how to convert that into making money. What I did understand was that the record labels that I was going into and doing interviews, they were like, hey, we'll pay you at that time, like we'll pay you $1,200 to follow this upcoming artist around for the day and create a video vlog. And me accepting that type of work and realizing like, wow, I have a skill set that is tangible, that I can actually put a barcode on and sell it to somebody and do this and make money to do it, you know, story tell, but make money to do it. And I could still go and independently make my own films and things. But now I understand that as a production company, to take this from a hobby to a business,
Get out of the red.
I can now make this into a tangible asset that I could bill people for and send an invoice to people for. So I think one of them was going to the SBA and having somebody tell me my shit was a hobby when I thought I was about to be Mark Zuckerberg. And
He's Mark Zuckerberg. That's what you were.
I thought that's what we thought. We saw The Social Network and we were like, yo, Mark Zuckerberg. Facts, big facts. Big
you
facts.
got it later. Okay.
Big facts. This dude said Zuckerberg.
What is the collaborative process? Is that important to you? And if so, how important is it? Why is it so important to you?
The collaborative process is everything because, you know, like we're sitting here right now, there's lights around us, there's microphones around us, and me and you ain't do 90% of the things that had to happen for this production to be going on, you know? The sound man that you was apologizing to 30 seconds ago.
Shout out to Alex.
Shout out to Alex. You know, he has to be on point. The whole crew got to be on point. And for Red House and just me as a creative in general, I'm very passionate about working with people that I like. Because when you work with people that you like, it's a vibration that's going around. And that vibration makes it from the set into the actual product. So that vibration is everything. You asked a second ago, what were the defining moments for Red House? Me coming to the conclusion that you have to like your crew and like the people you collaborate on was part of that page 31 process when I had an interview with K. Michelle. You know who K. Michelle is?
Mm-hmm.
So K. Michelle, Love and Hip Hop, R&B singer, all of the above. She's from Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh.
Feisty woman. Sweet woman from my experience until you play with her. So we went to go to Atlantic Records to do an
Play with
interview.
her, meaning like do a joke on her, a prank on her, or something like that?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh,
so
okay.
We went to Atlantic Records. We're setting up an interview. And I had a couple of guys that were working with me at the time who we ended up going our separate ways. But one of the guys was just like, he was a bit of a perfectionist, but in a negative way. So he was telling K. Michelle how to sit on the chair and how to do this, how to do that. That was when I realized, like, hey, hold on a second. I look like a dumb because of this dude being a. So the people that I'm working with are a reflection of me. So the filmmaking process is collaborative because I just told a filmmaker this last night at a panel I was at. I said, yo, if the sound guy has a bad day and you guys go screen your film, they're going to say this director sucks because he allowed that sound on his film. They're not looking up the sound guy's name. Your name, the one in big letters, right? You wanted to make your name so everyone could see it. You left it on there 4 seconds like, yo, slow dissolve. Make sure they see my, yeah. Anything that goes wrong, they're going to look at you like you're the jackass. So it's one band, one sound. like drumline, like one band, one sound. Like we all got to be on our P's and Q's, and that process is only tolerable when you like the people you're working with. Otherwise, you're like, yo, I can't wait for this project to be done because I don't want to deal with whoever the pain in the is.
That's true. That is true. So, hey, teamwork makes the dream work. Right, team? Right. See? What?
That's collaboration right there.
On said podcast. You ain't going to get it like this nowhere else. Steven Strickland.
Big facts.
Cali.
Big facts.
So, there are a lot of industry trends going around now. Have you noticed that short films and TV series, they're tackling like more intense and deep, subject matter?
Yeah, it's a renaissance. If you look through the history of like black cinema, for example, right? There was a time in the 80s, even though this isn't a black film, when Scarface came out, Scarface became the backdrop of our culture. Like all the rappers started rapping like they were Scarface. All the gangsters started trying to run like they were Scarface. And then towards the late 80s, in 1989, there was a film by the name of Do the Right Thing that came out, and Spike Lee didn't. There's no drug dealers in it. There's no shootings in it. There's none of that Scarface stuff in there. Right. Then 91, you got New Jack City, and New Jack City, we get to see Ice-T playing this cop who's like rattled by how these drugs are like affecting the community and things like that. So you're starting to see the consciousness of the films. My favorite film, Paid in Full, which came later on, like, towards 2000, you get to see the lifestyle of the Scarface, but then you get to see through A Boogie the conscious of the character being like, my mind's different, my body different, like I'm not doing that. And then you, in contrast with Money Making Mitch, who's like, this is all I could do. You know what I mean? So that's what, for a long time, from I'd say the late 80s until maybe like 05-ish, the films were super conscious. You have films like The Woods. That was just about coming of age and like Black brotherhood. You had Set It Off. All of these movies had the action, but then they also had the meaning there. Boys in the Hood,
story.
John Singleton, Spike Lee's of the world. Like all of these films had that consciousness, and then we went away from it. Now it's a renaissance because people are starting to do it again. And the reason that you're starting to see it again is because independent filmmaking has become so inexpensive or so accessible. Like anyone can wake up today and make a movie.
True.
You could get a microphone. You can get a decent mic for maybe $300, and then you could go get a camera for like $2,000, and you could run around and go shoot a movie. So now you're getting the people that are conscious, that have these thoughts, are being empowered to create their own films. And every now and then you get a Fruitvale Station, you get a Moonlight, you get a Origin by Ava DuVernay, you get American Fiction.
Ooh.
You get these films that are like giving it to you how you want it. On the flip side of that, not to trash the platform, because I think the platform can be very important moving forward. But on Tubi, there's a lot of films that have become popularized for sensationalization. So there's more of the sensationalization movies than there are the conscious movies. And I almost did a film deal with Tubi last summer, and in the final stages, they were like, more violence, more drama, more violence, more drama. And my film started to slip away, and it's like, you guys are just now, instead of saying, what does this film mean, you're like, how do we hit all of these
different points and market
the algorithm? How do we hit the algorithm? Okay, women-led dramas with 8 killing scenes are what's selling, and this is what keeps people watching, and this is what the demographic is tuning into and things of that sort. So these companies send out mandates every quarter or every year on like what films they're accepting from sellers, and they're pretty much controlling what the films that we consume look like and sound like, because they're telling them we only want suspense thrillers and this, that, you know. That's why you have like I like to call them like the Michael Ealy stalker love drama joints.
Okay.
Because I feel like he's done like 4 of those, and I love Michael Ealy,
Right.
but there's so many of those because that's like on these companies' mandates.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to make a film and this company says, "Hey, this is what we're buying," guess what? You're gonna make that film.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So, with the TV series and the films, reaching deeper levels and more personal stories, was that the technique that you used? Technique or the style or the influence that you used when you did your short, "Wouldn't Mean Nothing"
Yeah.
and your TV series, After Hours?
So Mac Wiles, Grammy nominated singer,
Shout out to Mac.
hell of an actor, one of my best friends in the world, and one of my greatest creative partners. We've gotten to work on a lot of cool things. I've directed some music videos for him. We created a mini series together, and we also have some projects in development currently. But same thing, like Mac has been hired for a long time to do certain projects, and like as a working actor, it's tough when the industry gets to decide what stories you tell. They get to decide what your place is in all of this. And I think when Mac and I create, and something that Mac said to me that really changed my trajectory as a creative is, when we first started writing films and stuff, I used to always write with a budget in mind. So before I sat down to write, I'd be like, yo, what's the budget? Like, what we working with? And he was just like, yo, bro, sit down and write what you want to write, and we'll figure out the money later. And that's what we've always done as a tandem. We think about what we're going through. We would have conversations about relationship stuff that we both shared in common, and things that are happening in the industry that we share in common, and different things like that. Like, yo, I got a friend this happened to. I got a friend, he and my friend is locked up, and boom, boom, boom. And we would have these combos, and then we say, all right, how do we take that combo and put it in a movie? And then like kind of reverse engineer these films from these conversations. And just being a conscious person in general, like that's the type of art you want to make. Now with After Hours and Wouldn't Mean Nothing, After Hours was the miniseries we did, which was inspired by Mac's album of the same name. After Hours, an amazing album. And we decided to make episodes that like brought the songs to life. And that was probably, that was conscious in a sense, but at the same time, it was about New York City nightlife. It was a sexy project. There was love-making scenes in there. There was all these different things that now as a creative, when it came back around to doing Wouldn't Mean Nothing, which we had Shannon Thornton from P-Valley co-star with Mac in it. A really amazing cast. Joshua Neal, who's...
That had
Shakia Dixon's in there.
Shakia.
Joshua Neal, who like goes viral every day on Instagram.
That's the guy that does the huge.
Yeah. So we had an amazing cast, and in that process, it was like we're having conversation, and I'm like, yo, Mac, like this lovemaking scene that we have on paper where these two lovers go in the bathroom and let it all out, like we don't need that. It does nothing to move the story along.
Right.
It checks the sensational box. So like primetime cable now, Issa Rae talked about how like HBO was pushing them to have sex scenes and stuff because people were asking like, yo, you always butt naked in the show. Like, why you got so many sex? Like, HBO wants that. You know what I mean? This is what these networks want. Now, when we're doing our independent art, we can do whatever we want to do. Yeah. So we don't necessarily need that, even though it might sell tickets, but we're more focused on telling the story the right way.
How do you feel about, the audience? Like when you're writing, what do you take in consideration, the audience, not just what the networks or whatever want? Do you think about what the people want?
Yeah, so as a storyteller, it's crazy because even before I started making films, like if something funny happened, I always wanted to tell my friends a story. And my friends always like, yo, hurry up, get to the end. And I'm like, hold on, I got to tell you everything that happened. I got to set the stage. Like so you can properly appreciate like the arc of this story. So that's always been where my mind is like, how do I deliver a story that at the end of this story, you're going to be like, yo, that was a great story. I'm always audience driven, right? Number one thing is figuring out what I want to say. And the number two thing is figuring out how to make the audience connect to what I want to say, right? Or how to like put this in a way where the audience leaves asking themselves a question about their own life, asking having a bigger conversation, so when you work with networks, I find that they don't really care about that. They are more caring about commercial breaks. This scene got to be this length so we could cut to this promo ad. They got to keep the lights on. So to give them slack on one end of it, I'll say it's a business. Right. It's not a hobby. So we got to keep the lights on. I get that. On the other side of it, I'll say that these people are so stuck following a formula that they don't realize what the audience wants. They're not tapped into the audience. I studied statistics. I did college statistics in high school. I learned statistics very early, and statistics can be bent any way you want it to. LeBron James is the leader in points scored, right? And somebody could say he's the greatest scorer of all time. Somebody else could argue, well, Jordan has almost as many points and played 8 less seasons or 7 less seasons. Right. However, if you want to do it by points per game versus total points, you got Jordan up here. If you want to do it total points, you got LeBron up here. Statistics and analytics can be skewed to tell whatever conversation you want. And a lot of times the corporations are not getting the conversation from the audience. They're not in the streets. They're not having these combos with the consumer and seeing what they like. So they keep making the same movie and we keep watching them. Yeah. And then it's like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football. Yes. We keep lining up to watch him, and then at the end of it, we like, damn, that sucks. And it's like, yeah, but you keep watching it, so they're gonna keep making it.
Numbers are gonna go up. Yeah. They're gonna make that money.
So there was a film that came out on Netflix not long ago, by a very big Black director. And people watched it. The promo was great. It was like a nice cast, very sexy cast that was there. A very popular woman that we all know. A male actor that the women all like, and then everyone watched it and they were
It wasn't me. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it.
You'll be there. But everyone watched it and then they were like, oh my God, it was so bad. And I'm like, yeah, but there was no sign to show you that it was going to be good, other than the fact that you like the people that were casted. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, if you understand that like certain creators have been using a formula and it's been successful for them, then why expect there to be a change in the quality?
We need to change some of the formula, people.
There's room for everything. Yeah. Because some people really do love that.
Yeah.
But we just have to support the stuff we really, really want to see more.
True.
on the same level.
So support the films, the movies that you want to see more. If you're a creative, write your own stories. That's where a lot of this comes from. From seeing the stuff that we're tired of seeing, and we know what's going to happen and predictable. So we write a different story from a different perspective and things like that. So that's what we need to do, people. So let's do it. Chilling here with Greg Cali. So anime. That's one of your films.
That's my baby.
That's your baby.
Yeah.
It's streaming on what, Peacock?
Yeah, anime is on Peacock. It's on Tubi. It's on Amazon Video. Yeah, we make it very hard for you to not find it.
Hey, we gotta find it. It's getting a lot of recognition. Being on so many platforms. Did it win an award?
The Newark International Film Festival was the first. You want to know something crazy?
Yeah.
Newark International Film Festival. We won.
2019.
Did we win? 2019, we won an award there. Now, Newark International Film Festival was one of the only festivals that gave love to anime. Wow. Partly because of my fault. I didn't understand
You stole the name of the title? Oh, no. That's your boy.
I didn't understand how programming film festivals works.
Okay.
So I was just having this conversation 2 days ago with one of my friends who was like, yeah, I want to make a longer short for the next one, do a festival run. And I said, yo, you have to understand, if your film, the longer your film is, the more jaw-droppingly incredible it has to be, because they're harder to program. When you go to a film festival, you usually see 4 or 5 film festivals in an hour block, right? So if you have a 10-minute film and it's good, it's very easy for them to put you with 4 or 5 other filmmakers and fill out a theater, because you guys are unknown filmmakers, fill out a theater because you guys are all selling tickets to your friends and family, and fill out a theater. It's easier for you to get programmed. Now, if your film is 40 minutes, like anime, they're like, what the hell? We got to give him his own time block, because the blocks work in an hour. So it's like, we could get 4 films or we could get anime. So I didn't realize how programming worked. Now, Newark International, they realized that we were telling a really cool story, and they realized the work that was done. They realized the amazing acting that was in it, and they made time for us. So Yvette Williams, Yaya Williams, she won Best Actress for anime, which we didn't know. So it's funny because she ended up coming late to the award ceremony. I just knew anime was nominated, and then I think we were nominated for Best Short, and then she was also nominated. And we lost to Lorenz Tate and his brother. They had a dope project.
Business Ethic, I think it was.
Yeah. So when we lost, I'm like, all right, whatever. We didn't win. And then like the Best Actress category came up, and then they said, yeah, well, she said, you were trying to surprise me, and I'm like,
you're like, no, I didn't even know.
No, so she ended up winning, and she went up, and she was like, yeah, I would have put a whole dress on if I knew I was nominated. I said, yo, I really didn't know, but wow. I was super happy that they acknowledged us, and I'll always have love for Newark International, because it was like at a time where a lot of I got to figure out how political the landscape of film festivals is, and how much race plays into that as well, because I have for a distributor like Peacock to put our film on their network, and for certain places to act like we weren't good enough to screen in their festival, the math's not math, and we have the numbers and the data to show the viewership, the people like it. So is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening?
What's the problem?
But Newark International, they showed us the love, and I feel like we validated them showing us love and even awarding us by going out into the world and ending up getting licensing deals with Peacock and Tubi, right, which a lot of people are trying to do that and can't. So a lot of the films that got into XYZ festival who we ain't even gonna promote. They're just on the shelf right now.
Right.
And this is very hard to get your stuff sold. So I'm not trying to shit on nobody who can't get their stuff sold. But the fact of the matter is that because our content was very, very black, for lack of a better word, it was based in like urban reality. A lot of white festivals were just like, nah, I don't got time for that.
So shout out to the Newark International Film Festival.
Shout out.
One of our partners here at On the Set podcast, because we are filming here in the Ironbound TV and film studio in Newark, New Jersey, home of the Newark International Film Festival. I'm not plugging them anymore. All right, so you mentioned the fact that Newark IFF accepted your film because of the story that it was telling. What do you think audiences, what do you think resonated the most with the audiences?
For what we lacked budget-wise, for what we lacked cosmetically, we made up for in texture. I think that the film has like that texture of like a contemporary love story. I think that it created a conversation that you can have, and it created like a storyline that you could follow, but like in a more genuine way than a lot of films that sensationalize. I think that we were talking about a subject matter that isn't spoken about a lot, and I don't want to spoil the film for whoever may want to go watch it. And
on Tubi, on Peacock, on Amazon Video. Go check out anime.
Yeah, so we talked about a subject matter that isn't really spoken about that much. And I think like for me with that film, it was telling the story with suspense. It was allowing people to discover this secret with the main character. Okay. So it kind of feels like a mystery unraveling and a love story combined. And I think a lot of people were excited to see how it played out and what choices the characters made after that. Yeah. But the message I get all the time is like, yo, I never really seen a film talk about this, and like, yo, it felt really real. So yeah, I think made a lot of mistakes as a creative in terms of my inexperience making films at that point in my life. But I think those mistakes actually happened with intentionality in terms of we prioritized the story over the cosmetic necessarily.
I like that term, the cosmetics.
Yeah.
I gotta remember that. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. It's if I could describe it, it's like a young woman stepping out without her makeup on, and she's just a natural beauty. That's how I feel about anime. It's like, oh yeah, she's naturally beautiful. Now, if you want to be a jerk, you might be like, oh, why is your hair not done, or this, that. But at the end of the day, you can't hate on the core of what this film is. It's like, oh, this is a beautiful person.
So you worked with Dwyane.
Yes.
Dwyane for a project for ESPN.
Yep.
How, that's great, by the way. How was it, what were the demands of producing, Dwyane, in that project?
It was, working on documentaries is a fun process. Now, I got to be there at ground zero. It was myself and the director. His name is Bob Metellus, Haitian American director. He was Dwyane Wade's longtime photographer, and he kind of transitioned into doing video work, and he didn't necessarily have as much experience in documentary storytelling. He was more so, he had done like vlogs and stuff like that, and a lot of iconic photography work. And he was looking for someone that could help kind of like help him put the story together. So I remember the day I had a conversation with him, the day that I virtually met him, he asked me when I was available. I said, whenever. And he was like, I'm gonna call your bluff. Like, come out to Miami tomorrow. I was like, all right. And 2 days later, I was in Miami. I'll never forget, it was Halloween. I got there, showed up, and he had to take his kids trick-or-treating, so we didn't actually get to end up working that day. But the first thing that happened to me was I was handed 60-something hard drives, and it was like, go through all this footage, organize it, and tell us where the story is. So I feel like to this day, it's kind of trippy because I feel like Dwyane Wade is one of my best friends because I've seen so much footage behind the scenes of his life where he's having personal combos and things like that, stuff with him and his kids, him and his wife. I feel like I know so much about him. So
Like being a fly on the wall.
Like being a fly on the wall. I know his inside jokes. I know words that he can't pronounce. I know different things like that. So a big part of my responsibility was, one, to help find the story and put the story together, help get this thing sold to ESPN. So I was part of creating the pitch trailers and the decks that we used to sell it. And then Ron Howard eventually came on with Imagine Productions, and they helped us complete the film. But a big part of it was just figuring out the moments that we had on camera that showed that he's more than a basketball player, that this is that he's a superhero in actuality because he grew up in a crack house. You know, he grew up with police running into his house, and when he was not even 10 years old, drawing guns on him. You know, these are the things people don't think about when they think of Dwyane Wade. People see Dwyane Wade, they see him walking red carpets, they see him doing this, they see him doing that, and they're just like, boom, and they like to talk trash about his family. And I think, like, when I think of the song, the Jay-Z song, in Paris, I think of Dwyane Wade. It's like, we ain't even supposed to be here. Like, when you see Dwyane Wade at Paris Fashion Week, like, this dude from Chicago, he's not supposed to be there. Right. But because he's very good at a sport, he was able to do it. And that's why, like, the documentary is Life Unexpected, because it's like, it's no way he could have expected to go from that to that.
Would you say that was your biggest hurdle or a thing you had to come up against, you know, to try to find the story and let the people know who Dwyane Wade is aside from what we know him to be?
I think the biggest hurdle, honestly, was the fact that me and Bob and the team, my boy Yuri Israel, we had a team that was on the ground very early that was helping kind of sort through this and make sense of it. And we all had a clear vision in mind, and we were all like kind of on the right page. And Bob was a very good motivator, and like me and Yuri were locked in a room just going through footage, trying to figure out, like, how do we tell the world, like, what's coming and how do we get this thing sold? And we did that. And one of the hardest things I feel like was the fact that when you sell a project, the intention gets muddied. We were working with Imagine Productions, and Bob, myself, Yuri, we were all black men who were kind of like looking at it one way. And then you bring in Imagine Productions, and it's a little bit more diverse in the decision making and the storytelling room, and they have different things that speak to them, and we're looking at it through the way that speaks to our community. So I think the toughest part for me personally was like trying to communicate to people in another community why certain moments need to be in this film, why certain things need to happen, and why our community will appreciate it so much. Yeah, like we talked about earlier, collaborative process, but sometimes that collaborative process is the hardest part, because people aren't going to understand the significance of, you know, a certain thing. You know what I mean?
So would you say, you know, like you said, having to explain the importance of certain things for your community to another community, percentage-wise, if you can, how much percentage was your ideas as opposed to the other communities' ideas on that collaborative effort?
In the final project?
In
the final documentary. So, you know, I was a producer on the project. Bob was a director, and I think ultimately ESPN had what they wanted. Imagine had what they wanted, and I think, like, if I was like, if it was just what Greg wants, like, oh, you can do this however you want it, then maybe there's like a good 20% of it that I would have done a little bit differently.
Okay.
But I still think it's a great documentary. It's all about, and I might have made something that was more niche because I might have been trying to speak directly to my community,
Right.
and maybe somebody in Middle America wouldn't connect with that as well. So that's part of the game. I'm proud of the project.
Mhm.
And I think that's the biggest thing. You want to leave being proud of something that you work on. So
Right.
I'm proud of it. And I think it's something that people that are fans of just like Black American success stories should check it out.
All right, cool. Definitely check out D Wade Life Unexpected on ESPN. You've been on a lot of sets, and there may be. Can you dispel any of the misconceptions of set life that people might have?
Number one, people think that being on set is just so fun and like, oh man, like you're having the time of your life, like this, that, the third. Yeah, it's fun, but it's also the most stressful thing that you'll ever experience. It's one of the most stressful things that you can walk into. It's the only time where you're gonna go into something. I'll put it this way. If you take the SATs, they give you a timed writing and a timed testing, and people stress out over the SATs, right? Because you only have 2 hours to do this thing, or 4 hours, or whatever the time length is. Making a film is like the SATs. You only have a 12-hour day. You got to wrap out, otherwise you're going into overtime and stuff. You have this amount of time to get what you got to do done. And if you mess up, you just lose points. There's no going back on that. You can't repair what you did yesterday. So if you have 2 bad days, that's going to affect the final product 9 out of 10 times. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that like this is fun, and a lot of people come to set like thinking that they're on a playground, and it's like, yo, when you come here, this is work. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have fun, but this is work. So, you know, I shot something not long ago, and everybody showed up and understood what it was, but one actor came over there trying to multitask. Like, his mind was offset while he was on set, and it stood out. He stood out like a sore thumb. And I was talking to my team afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, that's as a director, it's an instant turnoff when I see somebody comes to set and then
They're not there.
You know, the same actor, he asked me, oh, I see my scene doesn't film till 2 p.m. Can I come a little bit later? Because his call time was 2 hours before. He thinks the work starts when it's action.
Right.
That's the misconception. You're on set before you show up to location.
Yeah.
Like, you got to get your lines right. You got to get your mind right. If it's an indie and you're bringing your own wardrobe, you're in wardrobe in your house. You got to make sure your character looks the way he's supposed to look and things like that. People show up on set and they think like if they're not in front of the camera, what they're doing doesn't matter. Like, for a director, we see everything. So we might not tell you, but we see it.
Yeah, we're paying attention.
And when you don't get a call back, you know what's up.
So you were handpicked by the late, great Michael K. Williams for Black Market. That's awesome to be handpicked by, you know, someone of that stature, anybody that, you know, that's that level of celebrity. I'll leave it right there. Can you tell us like how working, you know, with him on that set, on that series, how has that influenced, you know, what you do?
The number one way, first of all, I just want to say Michael K. Williams was a great friend of mine, an OG, a mentor. I want to make sure that every time that he comes up, people understand that this guy's mind, he wanted to be the Berry Gordy of film, as he would say. He wanted to just be responsible for putting young Black people on and like creating this Motown of sorts of like, this is an umbrella of people underneath me that I've put in place to live out their dream and to bring good art through and things like that. Right. I remember one day he called his agent. So to answer your question, confidence is the number one thing that he gave me that I hold on to moving forward, and I'll explain how. One day when I went to his apartment and I played anime for him, and he watched it with his acting coach, and they both loved it, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's so raw, it's so vulnerable." And he called his agent, and he was like, "Yo, we got to work with this kid. We got to do something with this kid. Blah 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 blah. Like, let's make it happen." And his agent was like, "Okay, you know what I mean?" Like, I think his agent was looking at more of the cosmetics, like, you know, he's a little raw, like he needs some work and stuff like that. And Mike's like, "Nah, we can't let him slip through the cracks." Like, what's the director's name? Steven Copeland Jr. Steven Copeland, what's his name? He did
Cable?
Steven Cable.
Steven Cable Jr.
He did the Creed. He did Creed 2. He did Creed 2. So apparently at some point he was someone else that Mike crossed paths with and recognized his genius and wanted to help usher him in. He ended up finding his way regardless, but like the fact that like he was in front of him and he didn't have the opportunity to help him, he was like, "Nah, we can't let this happen again with Greg Cali. Like, this dude is on his way. Like, I want to be part of it." So with Black Market, I was supposed to be a producer, just a producer on the show. I was going to produce, and I was going to do a little bit of camera operating. And one day he was just like, he just called me. He's like, "Yo, be ready." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yo, it's about to change. Be ready." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And he went and called the network and was like, "Yo, Greg Cali's going to direct an episode of this.
Wow.
You know, there's no Black directors on this. This is because it was he produced it."
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "This is a freedom production. Like, we not going out like that. Right. Like, I'm trying to tell the stories of the minority, and we got nothing but non-colored people telling the stories. Like, get the fuck out of here." So he tells them that he wants me to direct. They call me and they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna co-direct with this person," right? For me, I'm just thankful for the opportunity. So I'm not like, that's not what Mike told me. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. You know, compromises. I kid you not, this is so divine. I'm at his apartment helping him with something, and he had to do a virtual setup. So I'm over there building his virtual setup. Because this was like right after COVID, and there wasn't in-person awards yet. So they called him. They were having like their conference call. They don't know I'm there. They're having their conference call, and they go, "Yo, Greg will be co-directing with blah, blah, blah." He said, "Hold on, run that back for me." And they were like, "Yeah, Greg's going to co-direct with," and he goes, "How many episodes got co-directors?" And they were like, "1." He was like, "Oh, so the episode with a Black director is the only one with a co-director?"
Got him.
Get the out of here. But I remember being teary-eyed because I'm not related to this guy. This guy doesn't have any ulterior motive to help me, but he was cursing out a TV network and telling them like, "Yo, y'all have held us in chains for 400 years. Y'all been propping yourselves up unrightly. Now we have a chance to prop a young Black creative up, and y'all don't want to give him his fucking chance. Let him have his name on the door by himself." After that, I'm like thanking him, and he's like, "Yo, why are you thanking me? Like, you're nice at this. Like, you came on the last production and you killed it, and you elevated the production. You shouldn't be thanking me for an opportunity you should already have." So I'm like, now the pressure's on me. So I do my thing. I feel like I killed it. A lot of the network execs ended up saying that my episode was the best of the season. There was a lot of good episodes on the series, but hearing that from some of the execs was great to hear. They submitted it for Emmy, for like Emmy consideration, and by the end of the production, they were allowing me to co-direct other people's episodes. The confidence went a long way because they got to see me in my element. They got to see what I could bring to the table, and some of the people that were doubtful that I could get the job done were like my biggest supporters by the time that we were rapping on the show, and I ended up crazy enough. And it's like I'm not saying it to flex because it's a weird flex in a sense, but I had to come to the realization after Mike passed away that I'm the last person to direct Michael K. Williams. Maybe 3 days before he passed, I was co-directing another director's episode, and we went to Boston and shot a scene, and I directed him, and then we went out to dinner a couple days after that, maybe like 2 days before he passed away. We went out to dinner, and he was just giving me my props, like, yo, you really came in and killed it. Like, everyone's raving about your work and this, that, the third. And so, yeah, that for me, like, to have that be like our last conversation and to kind of internalize the fact that, like, damn, like, I was the last person to get the honor of directing like one of the most talented actors ever. Like, it's like, yo, that did a lot for my confidence. So moving forward, confidence wise was huge. And then one of the things that he taught me was like the commitment to keeping it real. Like, we walked into some of the most dangerous situations. We were in the middle of a shootout in one of the episodes. Everywhere we went, we were good because we were with Mike. We didn't have no security with us. But when people saw Mike, it was like, yo, cool it. There's one scene where there's a bunch of scammers and they had their guns. They take their guns out. They put them on the table. I remember staring at the situation because the gun's on the table. I don't know if the safety's on or whatever, but it was like pointing right at Mike. And we had to go over there and like turn the gun.
Wow.
We didn't want to get our fingerprints on it. So I remember us like, anyone have latex gloves? And we had to turn the gun just in case, because they're slamming the table and stuff, and we didn't want some accidental fire to happen and things like that. But the way that he was, because he was so real and so him, and he didn't put on a facade, everywhere we went, people were like, yo, they thought that was their brother. Like, people that had never met him a day in their life would be like, yo, you good here, come on. And it was cool to be around that energy.
Michael K. Williams was a dope person. I would run into him a couple times at Penn Station, Newark Penn Station. I was like, yo, Omar. And he was like, yeah. It was just cool, you know, to witness his artistry. Let's move into another project, and I gotta do it this way. I gotta bring it in this way. I gotta say, never would have made it.
Yeah.
Marvin Sapp story.
Yes.
And that's the film that we met on.
Yes.
Not we met there, but you know, at the premiere of it on TV1. And when I asked that, you know, the infamous question, it was a great movie. You know, my good friend Amber Anderson is in that film, and it had to be. It was a very inspirational story, and I don't know if it was, you know, if it was a deep, you know, thing for you. How did you capture the essence of Marvin Sapp and his values of perseverance and faith?
So the Marvin Sapp project was, I learned some things about life that directly impacted my life after writing that film. After some of the conversations I had with Marvin, it's very interesting because when I sat down and I did the research and I learned all about his life, and the first thing that stood out to me, you know, you asked me the soundtrack to my life, and I said Cherry Wine because, like I said, Nas is trying to find his life partner in that song. And the first thing that stood out to me was that Marvin Sapp married one of his longtime childhood friends, Melinda Sapp. He ends up marrying her. Her name was Melinda Prince before that, obviously, but who Amber played in the film. And she ended up passing away too soon due to cancer. And there was two things that popped in my mind. One was, I was like, this is a love story, this biopic. Like, I want to tell a love story, because the fact that he knew her, he was singing in choir with her when he was like 5-6 years old, and he ended up marrying her, and she ended up managing him. I'm like, this is the ultimate love story. So number one, like, I was like, yo, I want to talk about that. And number two, I was like, man, as a writer, I don't know how I can tap into the depth of like this feeling of mourning and this feeling of loss. You know, like I remember that one being like one of my intimidations, was just like not being able to relate to that. I lost my grandparents. That was those were the only close people I had lost at that point in my life. So I was just like, man, am I going to be able to do it justice? Ironically enough, we just spoke about Mike. As I was writing the film, Mike passed away. So I instantly stepped into that connection where I'm like, ooh, like me losing this friend and mentor, I'm like, this was the mother of his children. So the pain I was feeling, I'm like, damn, I can tap into that and kind of weave that into the genesis of what I'm writing, right? The other thing was that having conversations with Marvin, it was very early in the process. He was telling me the story of him and his wife's first date. It didn't end up making the movie the way that it happened in real life, or the way that I wanted it to happen for the world, because I felt like they needed to hear this. But on his first date with his wife, she was like, yo, what's your 5-year plan? And he just shut down. Like, he had never had a woman ask him anything so meaningful or anything so intentional about his future. And he shut down. He literally he tanked the date after that because he didn't know like how to operate in that moment. He was like intimidated by it. But that was also the moment he knew that that was the moment that, well, he ends up tanking out of that date, and she gives him another chance. She tells him to come to the house, and she cooked from scratch in front of him. She was like, I'm gonna cook, you just talk. And he watched her cook a meal from scratch and ate the meal. And when he left, he was like, yo, I'm gonna marry this woman. And hearing the way he said it, and like in the meeting, I was like, oh, wow. Like, as a young man, like, you're always thinking of a million other things when you meet or when you're courting the person that you want to be with. But I felt like his testimony was like such a calling. Like, he never wanted to date his future wife because he felt like she was too good to date. He was like, yo, she's not the type of girl you date. She's the type of girl you marry. And his bishop was like, so then marry her. What the hell's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, what you talking about? So I learned that from him, which changed the way that like I approach things in my love life. It really like unlocked a part of my brain. And then another behind the scenes story, if I can.
Yes.
But he taught me a lot about integrity. I never spoke about this publicly, but I'm going to talk about it. And whatever happens, happens. So, myself and Samant Washington, my boy, we signed on to write this film. We wrote the film, and towards like the time that the film was due, we both got COVID. And it felt like I was on my deathbed. Like, it felt like I got hit by a bus. The network was like, movie at? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, we both have COVID. They're like, cool. You can have the script in by Friday? Wow. We both have COVID. They didn't give a So, Samant was so delirious. I said, yo, don't worry, Samant, I got it. I think Samant lost like 30 pounds. He's a big dude, 6'8", like probably 220 or something. He lost like 20, 30 pounds from the COVID. It hit him worse than me. And I had to stay up for like 2 days straight with COVID to meet the deadline. And the network tried to get us replaced. Not because the script wasn't good, but because the person that they wanted to direct the script be able to say that they wrote and directed it. So they tried the politics of it all. So they didn't try. Why did I say try? they sent us a termination letter.
Oh, wow.
And I laughed and I told somebody, like, don't respond. And I called Marvin and I said, yo, this is what's happening. Marvin called the network and was like, if Greg and Samant aren't on that film, y'all don't have a film no more.
That's amazing.
They called us back. That email was a mistake. The email of them firing us, that was a mistake. It should have never went. How you accidentally fire somebody? You ever heard of an accident like that?
No.
We accidentally typed up a whole termination email.
Whole thing.
We accidentally offered y'all an offensive buyout. We accidentally offered y'all a script consulting credit after you just wrote the whole movie, after you did the treatment that got the film greenlit. And Marvin Sapp, he didn't have to do that. He could have just been like, sorry, guys, it is what it is. He was like, nah, if these dudes ain't on it, that whole movie, I'm not signing my life rights over.
Right.
So he fought for us the same way that Michael K fought for me. And for whether they wanted to or not, they had to keep us on as the writers of the film.
Hey, and at the end of the day, a great film was made.
Yeah. You know, one day, like, it's interesting because I spoke to the actors on the set of the film, and like when I got to go to set and I got to meet the actors and things like that. And there's more to this story, but like,
we might have to get you on for a part 2.
that story, like when I'm able to really tell the story the way that it went down, and
like, you gonna make your own documentary.
Yeah,
That's
it's gonna be eye opening. But the actors, when I went to set, they could feel that the product had been diluted. And there was a little bit of disappointment from them because they could tell where certain things in the script, they could tell, you know, when like somebody remixes your shit and you could kind of tell like, ooh,
something different.
Something's going on here. Like, this ain't the same as that. They could tell the certain moments didn't match up to others. So they kind of knew something was going on. And going back to the collaborative process, you know, as a writer, TV One is a network that is not WGA signatory. And as young writers, you need to know which companies are and aren't, because the things that the Writers Guild has decided are ethical, they don't have to abide by. So just process that.
Learn that.
Essentially, that's like
gems.
me telling you that there's a law out here, right? There's a federal law, but this one state doesn't abide by the federal law. Like if we say stop and search is illegal, this one state saying the federal law, we gonna stop and search. Anyone who's not a WGA signatory is essentially saying, what you think is ethical, we gonna do whatever we want.
That's deep. I told you we gonna uncover some secrets. So, you know, get up on your WGA, you know, info and all that stuff for all you know, writers that's coming up in the game.
Oh, he taught me the power of ownership, by the way.
Okay.
Because in that moment, when I saw like that this company that they had been trying to make a Marvin Sapp movie for a while, but they couldn't get it greenlit. A lot of writers had come and gone, and they couldn't come up with a way to tell the story that they felt would work. We created the treatment for it. So we first got hired to create the treatment for it. They had to pay us to essentially tell them what the movie was.
Right. And
then that's what they went into production based on. That's what it got greenlit based off. That's what the network agreed to make. And to have created the idea, to have done all the legwork for it, to have gotten it over the finish line essentially, and then potentially almost get fired from it, taught me like, oh shit, I need to own my, because I'll never be in a situation where someone could take my IP and push me out of it. Right. And Marvin showed his boss card like, nah, I own all this. Y'all can't do nothing without my okay.
That's true.
And that showed me like, oh, I gotta boss up and make sure I'm never in that situation again.
So without Marvin Sapp,
I never would have
You
made
never
it.
would have. You beat me to it, bro. Man, that was good. That was good. That was good. So before somebody can get to the level that you are at in your career, everybody starts out. A lot of people start out as a PA and they move their way up to working on HBO and TV One and having a movie on Peacock and Tubi and Amazon. Really quick, can you give us some advice that you would give to up and comers on how to seize these opportunities and seize these moments?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for up and comers, I think like your reputation is everything.
Give it to that camera right
Your
there.
reputation is everything. If you act like a jackass on set, the industry is way smaller than you think. When I showed up to set here today, there's people that I know from different places that I've run into on this set. You know what I mean? So if I was a jackass to Strick, maybe this opportunity would have never came by. If I was a jackass to Kenny, maybe this opportunity would have never came. There's different people involved, right, and the industry is small. So the number one thing is I have a young intern that I want to shout out. She just finished interning for me. She's actually a high school senior. I think she's going to Dublin to go to film school. But she came in and worked her ass off and listened to everything and presented her best self every time she came on set. Her name is Coco. Every time she came on set, she presented her best self. And I had her go work on a set that my DP was shooting, and I'm getting phone calls from the set. Yo, this girl's amazing. This girl's amazing. This girl's a beast. And then I had her come work on a project I just shot. Yo, this girl's amazing. Yo, one of the best PAs ever. Da-da-da-da-da. And she's a high school senior.
Wow.
There's some grown adults, 26 years old, who don't get that kind of
no calls
glowing,
about them.
Yeah, no calls about them. But she came in with a pureness and a general curiosity. She asked the right questions. She never said no. She did everything with a smile on her face. And that's what moves you up the ladder. People gotta like you. Like we said earlier, you want to work with people you like. And the number one thing that makes someone like you, it's not the jokes you tell, it's not the clothes you wear, it's your usefulness. How do you make life easier on everyone around you? If I'm a sound guy and I need Duracell batteries because my lav mics are dying, how quickly can you get to the store and back? Are you going to do it with a good attitude? Are you going to bring the right batteries back? Are you going to call my phone? Oh, what kind of batteries you want again? Oh, are you going to come back with AAA when I ask for AA? And now you're wasting,
supply the demand.
Now you're wasting time on set. These are the things that separate you. I think for me, I want to say, I'm sure there's been some situations where I fucked up and I didn't show up in my best self. But I want to say for the majority that I've showed up as me, as a good person. I've worked hard and I've tried my best to enhance the project. And I think that that's why I continue to get opportunities and I was able to move along and get into more situations. I've never had an agent. So when people ask me, yo, you're on Vice, ESPN, HBO, all of these things, your show's on Peacock, you got an agent? Nah. This is all just me having relationships and showing up and doing what I do. So people get intimidated by not having representation. You are your own representation until further notice.
Right.
Show up the right way and you're going to get more opportunities. There's nobody who works their ass off and is good at something that will not see more opportunities come their way. It's That's impossible.
Right. That's right. So you gotta do your job, show up, and service the need in the best way possible.
Yeah, put your best foot forward and make sure you love what you do. Because if you don't love it, which I told a couple of my interns, if you don't love it, you're not gonna be of use to anybody. Because we could tell when you could tell when somebody's doing something because their heart's in it, and you could tell when they're doing it
dragging their feet
because they just want to check.
Oh yeah. So now's that time where we talk about what's next. So, so with all the films and projects that you've done, and is there something or a genre that you haven't tackled that you would like to tackle?
Yeah, I think we're gonna shoot an action feature this summer.
Okay.
I haven't done anything in the action realm yet. I'm excited that a group of creatives at the top of the year, one of the things that I did as like a resolution or whatever you want to call it was that I created a call between a bunch of filmmakers that I frequently work with, and we talk every 2 weeks about just what we want to create and different things like that. Many projects have come out of these phone calls. Just by getting on the phone, we ended up we did a scripted podcast, which a guy y'all may have heard of. Steve Strickland is one of the voice actors in. Yeah.
How's that? New Day.
New Day
With Mac Wiles.
Antonique Smith, another Grammy-nominated musician and actress. She played on Broadway in Rent. Deshaun Andrea White, another beast in her own right. So we were able to do a scripted podcast that is going to have a life of its own. There's some cool things happening with that now.
Awesome.
We're continuing to develop it. So we might be foraying into illustration, which is new for me. You asked about new animation, I should say. It might see itself manifest as an animated project. We're in the process of that right now. And like I said, a group of us creatives decided, let's have some ownership. So I took those lessons that I learned from Mike and Marvin Sapp, and we say, yo, let's go make a feature. And we decided we want to make an action film, and we're gonna go make this action film.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a tight treatment, and now I got to go write the script. So write the script, and we're gonna go shoot this action film. Something that I've never done before, because for me, I want to make sure that everything is true to me, and now it finally makes sense for me to do it. I'm actually doing it with purpose as opposed to just doing it because I just feel like doing it. Right. This is a story that actually spoke to me that I decided this makes sense, and as a group, we all put our ideas together and came up with something really dope.
All right, so you're excited. You're excited about the things that are coming down the pike, man. I'm looking forward to seeing, reading, hearing about all the great great stuff that that you're putting out there. And I was glad to be a part of at least one of those projects.
Yeah, you killed it, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Killed it.
Thank you, man.
Bodied it.
Thank you very much, man. Doing my 1-2.
Yeah.
Doing my 2-1. Well, folks, unfortunately, it's that time where we got to wrap things up. I hope you learn some new things, learn some things about Greg, and are inspired about writing, screenwriting, about directing, about producing, and working in different facets of filmmaking, working with different levels of celebrity and not so celebrity, the differences on set, and just a lot of things, insightful things that he's passed down to us. So Greg, we thank you for your openness, your honesty, and being on the show. We'd definitely love to have you back to hear that, the whole story of what you really couldn't say. But real quick, let the people know where they can, they can find you, follow you, stalk you, that type of stuff.
Yeah, you guys can, you can follow me at Greg Cali on Instagram. Shoot me a DM if you need anything, opportunities, actors. I'm always posting casting and different things like that on my stories and things like that. You can send me your headshots, different things. I'm always looking for talented young crew members, editors and graphic designers, especially right now, we are looking for, but photographers, videographers, anybody who's looking to learn and who's serious about their business and who understands how to show up on time. reach out to me. Heavy on that show up on time part.
I said, what time you here? Never mind. Never mind. Okay.
And yeah, that's how you can find me. Find me on Instagram at Greg Cali. Everything's there, all the links and all that good stuff is there.
Okay.
And yeah, we got projects all over the place.
It's Greg Cali. You can find me. I'm your host, Steven Strickland. You know where to find me on Instagram. I am Steven Strickland. Find me on Facebook. Is it Steven Strickland? Yeah, Steven Strickland or Strictly Talent One. One of those. You'll find me. Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And looking forward to everything that you have going on.
Yeah, shout out to you and the whole On the Set podcast team.
Podcast.
It was fun, man. Appreciate you having me.
So remember to subscribe to On the Set podcast and stay tuned for more engaging conversations with industry experts. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep embracing the magic of storytelling. I'm your host, Steven Strickland. This has been Greg Cali. Always remember, do what you love and love what you do. Till the next time.